Last question, can non-Christians pray effectively? Well, let's look first of all at those who are the children of God. Let's ask the question, is it possible for the prayers of a child of God to be ineffective? Is that possible? There are so many passages, especially in the Old Testament, many passages that say, yeah, even the prayers of God's people can be worthless sometimes. Look at Jeremiah chapter 11 and verse 11. Thus says Jehovah, behold, I am bringing disaster upon them that they cannot escape. Even when they cry to me, I will not listen to them. For, verse 13, your gods have become as many as your cities, O Judah. You see what he's saying? He's saying you have become idolatrous and suddenly you're in trouble and now you cry out to me. Cry out to your gods, is what the passage says. Don't cry out to me because I ain't listening. Psalm 66 and verse 18, if I had cherished iniquity in my heart, the Lord would not have listened. If I cherish iniquity, I'm in love with lawlessness. I kind of like that worldly thing. Then the Lord would not listen to me. How about Proverbs 28 and verse 9? If one turns away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination to God. Not only does God not hear it, it's an abomination to him. And those are the people of God we're talking about. Their prayers can be ineffective. Non-Christians, we go to 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 12, which by the way is a quotation from the Old Testament, Psalm 34. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, but his ears are open to their prayer, but the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Now, do you see the common thread in all of this? Jeremiah writes about those who are idolatrous. Psalm 66 talks about those who cherish iniquity. Proverbs 28 talks about those who turn away their ear from listening to God, hearing his law. Psalm 34, which Peter quotes in 1 Peter chapter 3, describes those who do evil. You see the common thread? Not hard to see the common thread here. That those, whether the people of God or not, who are walking in sin, who are living in darkness, who love iniquity, God's not going to pay attention. Talk to his hand because his ear's not listening. There's a sense, Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 13, no creature is hidden from his sight. All things are naked and exposed to the eyes of him with whom we must give an account. I mean, does God know that the wicked are praying? Yeah, he knows. Not interested. As long as these individuals' hearts are the way they are, not interested. He's not going to pay attention. Contrast that with Cornelius. In Cornelius chapter 10. Tell me if Cornelius sounds anything like the guys Jeremiah was talking about, or Solomon or David as they're writing their parts. Does this sound anything like of those guys? How about Acts chapter 10 and verse 1? At Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius. He was a centurion. In verse 2, listen to this. He was a devout man. He was one who feared God with all of his household, which means he was teaching his family about God. He was one who gave alms generously to the people. He was one who prayed continually to God. It doesn't sound anything like those guys Jeremiah and these other guys were writing about. It doesn't sound anything like those guys. In verse 3, he sees an angel. In verse 4, he stared at him in terror. This Roman centurion was terrified at this angel. And he said, "What is it, Lord?" And the angel said to him, "Your prayers and your alms have ascended as a memorial before God." Can non-Christians pray effectively? I think the story of Cornelius says yes, they can. If they've got the right heart. If they've got the right heart. Because the people there that we read in the Old Testament, they didn't have the right heart, and God wasn't going to pay any attention to them. But men like Cornelius, the right heart. It's important to note that he was not told to pray the sinner's prayer. Nobody ever prayed their way through to salvation. Nothing like that. But God was aware of his prayers, and he made arrangements for him to hear words, as Peter told the friends of his back in Jerusalem, words whereby he and his household could be saved. Those words were the gospel. And it was those gospel words that saved eventually Cornelius and his household, because they responded to that same gospel that can save us today, Romans chapter 1 and verse 16. Now, this is more along the lines of what Jesus said. Ask, and you shall receive. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. But can you see in all of those things, to ask, to seek, and to knock, we're talking about people with good hearts, people like Cornelius.